Hey guys, just finished watching DC's Legend of Tomorrow, Season 4, Episode 16, Hey World. An interesting ending for this season. I don't know, some of this stuff in this episode just got a little bit too silly, and I get it that this is the whole point of the show, that it's a bit silly and stuff, but even in the episode that they do kind of, they kind of self-referentiate it, the fact that people don't really like this show too much compared to the other shows because it's not a superhero show and that's what they're looking for, right? So I think that's kind of interesting that they're they're at least aware of it, so it'll be interesting to see as to how things kind of change going into next season and how the kind of DC, the Crisis Infinite Earth kind of eventually kind of changes this show in the future going forward. You know, I think that could be something interesting to play with, have it completely revamp this show a little bit and kind of change it up. So we see that Nero planned in this episode is to kind of let all hell break loose and stuff and let everyone out from hell, so that was kind of interesting. We find out that Rory has the magic book, or the one that was kind of rewriting it and things come to life type thing. Rory's been had it this whole time. He stole it from the Time Bureau. And so Nate can use it to then create Hey World, so they can, make everyone believe in monsters rather than, hating monsters and stuff, which is kind of okay, but whatever. And then we see that Zari's future is changing because they, if they make everyone believe in monsters now, then people won't be scared and there won't be the dystopian future that Zari is from, and then things will change, right? And we see that Vandal Savage makes a cameo in this here since he's in hell type thing. I think that was really cool seeing him here, and the way it's been such a long time since we've seen Vandal Savage that when I first saw him here, I was like, whoa, is it still the same actor type thing? Because the way he was playing him was completely different, and I wasn't sure if it was the same guy, but I looked it up and yeah, it's the same guy who played him and stuff. So it's just kind of in an interesting way seeing him play the same role but in a completely different way, and because he's doing it in a completely different way, it kind of seems like a different character, but it's not. And I think that's kind of really interesting for this show. That was kind of fun there. We see that Neron, if Neron has to kill Nate, we found out that Neron has to kill Nate to set Ray free. So it's obviously that's going to happen, and they set something like that up. I don't know if they had to kind of foreshadow that and have John Constantine kind of hold our hand throughout this episode by telling us, oh, if he kills Nate, then he's free. That's just like, well, you're just giving it away that that's going to happen. What you could have done is have, Nate sacrifice himself to save Zari, not knowing if it's going to to save someone, not knowing that it's going to save Ray, and then while he's unconscious and it's all quiet, Constantine can then just say, oh, and then you see that Neron leaves his body because you broke your deal, you broke your promise, right? And I think that could have been interesting, seeing Constantine figure that out in the moment rather than foreshadowing it early on in the episode, kind of revealing that that's going to happen, and later on it was just kind of, it took away the weight of that thing because we knew it was going to happen, So it's just kind of a bit silly that they just did that, and if they had just kind of surprised us with his death at the end of the episode, and not kind of foreshadowed it earlier on, then it would have been interesting to see that, finding that out, or I think that would have been interesting to see. They didn't have to spell it out for us that if Neron kills Nate, he his deal with Ray kind of gets annulled, right? They already had Ray in hell, telling John Constantine, oh yeah, I sacrificed myself for to save Nate, and leave it at that. Don't have him spell it out to Nate, to spell it out to the audience. It was just kind of a bit silly seeing him do that. And it was just kind of, it took away some of the weight since we knew it was going to happen. We see the Monitor is at Hayworld, but nothing happens. The Monitor's been, who's on Flash, he was on Arrow, Supergirl, and he does nothing in this episode, which I'm wondering is like, okay, I understand they want to tease everyone the crisis coming up, but why wasn't the Monitor was nowhere in the Flash, so I don't know, I just think that, if there was nothing for the Monitor to do, just having him here was a bit kind of weird. I get the idea to show everyone, yeah, you got to watch the crossovers and stuff, but why not do that also in the Flash? Why not also have him just there watching the ending? Maybe he's just there just to watch everyone and to monitor everyone, and it would have been interesting. But for him to be here not doing anything and then not be at all in the Flash, it's just kind of a bit weird. Not sure as to what they were getting at. And since I'm assuming they knew that this would have been the last episode of the last one final to air, they should have had something a little bit bigger to kind of tease Crisis on Infinite Earth. Maybe show him kind of watching everyone type thing and teasing the crossover a bit more. Is something that I would like to have seen. Or maybe instead of the way they had brought Nate back by, the power of love and stuff, which is just getting a kind of sappy and cheesy and just kind of not interesting whatsoever, seeing, the power of love bringing Nate back, which is kind of like boring. Have the Monitor just say, yeah, you're important for the Crisis, we're going to need you, type thing, and bring him back, type thing, something like that. I don't know, I just think it would have been interesting to see there. Or you're important, but every piece needs to be there, type thing. Whereas, he's important, he has to be a part of it. He might not be a big part of it as much as, Oliver Queen might be if you've seen the end of that show. But, it's going to be interesting to see as to where things kind of go with the Monitor. So I would have liked to have seen the Monitor do something in this thing, something to set up season 2, and something to set up, something to set up the next season, or something to set up the Crisis on Infinite Earth. So, and then we end this episode with Zari being replaced by her brother, and that was interesting there. And it's just kind of like he has all the memories that she has from, as if from what she's been doing with the Legends and stuff. So I think that's going to be interesting to see as to where things go with that for the next season. Is her brother going to take over and be a Legends member? I think that's interesting. It almost seems like not only is it affecting her memory, but it's also kind of going to starting to affect everyone else's memory. Maybe Nate's, everyone who all their memories with Zari get replaced, the same memories, but with Zari's brother. So I think that could be something fun to play with going into next season, and just having a new cast member like that part of the show. I guess the history would stay the same, but the future stories with him could be something interesting to play with and to see as to where things kind of go with that. So we'll have to wait and see as to where things go with this. But this show, interesting. I just hope that I'd like to see them take the opportunity to use Crisis on Infinite Earth to kind of revamp the show just a little bit and tweak it a little bit, just to kind of give it a bit more seriousness, because I don't think many people are looking for a silly show here. If you look for something silly, there's a difference between the silliness of Legend of Tomorrow and the differences of the silliness of Doom Patrol. And Doom Patrol does not star, the Atom, Black White Canary, Steel, Constantine. Those characters, they just don't. I feel like these characters just don't fit in this kind of silliness. As much as like the Doom Patrol show, do. They pick silly characters for a silly show. Whereas here they took cool characters and now they have them in a silly show, and it just kind of doesn't really work out a little bit. I'd like to see it a little bit more cooler, just like the first season of Legend of Tomorrow. So it feels more legendary rather than these cool characters in this silly show. I just don't think that mix works too much. So I think I just dial it back a little bit and dial up, the Constantine stuff. That part of the show was amazing, So the Constantine stuff for this season was really cool. Seeing him in hell and all that stuff, his story arcs were really cool. So I'd like to see bring a bit more of his show into this going into next season. So that'd be fun to see as to where things could go with that if they decide to do that. And also, every time I think of Constantine, it always reminds me that his show is connected to this show. It should be part of the same universe. So it'd be interesting to see something like the helmet of Naboo, the Dr. Fate helmet, which was an Easter egg in the first episode of Constantine show. I leave the pictures all the ways up in the videos for these reviews. So maybe they could bring that into the crossover. Fingers crossed that they do something like that. That could be really cool. We'll have to wait and see though. But I think Dr. Fate would be a really interesting character to bring into the the crossover. I think he'd be really interesting, and I think he'd only really work for the crossovers because of how CGI heavy his powers would be, type of thing. So we'll have to wait and see. But fingers crossed. Let me know what you think, guys, about this episode in the comments below, and what do you think for next season, and what do you think the Monitor was doing here? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.